This one. We're live. We're live. We're doing it. Hey, happy Thursday, everybody. We're here tonight to talk about numbers and estimating. It's one of our favorite things to talk about. It's what we do. We are landscaping business coaches, if you don't know who we are, and we help landscapers figure out their numbers, even if they are just starting out in their business, even if they, have kind of just been playing a little bit of guessing game with it and never have really dug into them before. So that's what we are here to talk about tonight. I'm going to chat with you guys just a little bit real quick about some of the common phases that we see landscapers go through when it comes to their numbers. And then if you guys have questions at all, throw them in the comments. Hit us up with questions all about numbers and estimating. Scott's been putting together estimates for 20 some odd years. And so pick his brain, get all your questions answered. So just real quick, really the first phase we see landscapers go through when they're trying to learn how to estimate and price their jobs. The good old just throwing out a guess is really the first thing that we see landscapers do. And I like no shade. This is usually landscapers that are just starting out or have just started their business or are doing it as a side hustle. Maybe even sometimes they're still in high school. That happens. And it's really just, it happens just because you don't know better. You're just starting out. We all started somewhere. And these are those people that you see like in Facebook groups and they're like, oh, I'm charging $45 per cut for mow. Does that seem right? Yeah. And so everybody kind of goes through that stage of just like picking a number and going for it and seeing if it works. And it's okay because a lot of times when you're first starting out, you've got like a fear of losing out of jobs. A lot of people are afraid of charging too much. Yes. I would say I don't know if it's a favorite thing about landscapers, but landscapers are good people. We don't ever have anybody who is like, I just want to charge the most that I can to people.
Well, that's something we've been talking to different people here recently. And that was one of their comments is, I just want to be fair. Well, you can be fair, but
yeah. Well, that's why I love landscapers because they're good. Everybody, we're good people. Nobody is out there looking to screw anybody. Everybody just wants to charge a fair price. But just keep in mind, a fair price isn't always what's just cheapest for the customer. It's also what is, keeping food on your table and paying your bills.
So real quick, if you guys have any questions anywhere along the way, feel free to post a comment below or post a comment in the chat section. Alcantar, appreciate you guys being here. 207 Landscaping.
Yeah.
Moss Landscaping.
Yeah, if you've got questions, go ahead and throw them in. I usually just talk a little bit at first, just while everybody's kind of getting in and getting their things going. But yeah, so we see landscapers, they start out guessing, then they kind of progress to like guessing plus. And that's when you get into people that are like, well, I'm just going to do a 50% gross profit. Like they start to know like, oh, I have materials. I know I need to charge for my materials. And I know that like labor exists and that there's things that go with labor, but I'm not 100% sure where it is. So I'm going to start like we said, a lot of people do that like 50% gross profit. And the unfortunate thing with this is that works for like a little bit. And a lot of landscapers get to that point and then they stay there and they never graduate above and beyond just doing that kind of guessing plus. And that's where things get dangerous because you can be there for a little while. And if you've upgraded from just flat out guessing to going to the 50% gross profit, you might do okay for a little bit.
The one thing with the 50%, I mean, yeah, it's a good baseline, good thing to kind of get you going. And I do keep that in the back of the head when I'm doing estimates, but that is never a number we should just be shooting for. That's just, to me, is just, again, you're just,
well, and unfortunately, like I said, this is where like people unfortunately get stuck here because what happens is eventually that's not going to work. Yeah. And so that's when we really like landscapers to move on to a very data-driven process for pricing your work. That's where you really know your numbers. You know all of your materials. You know every single little stinking number that goes into your labor. You know all of your overhead. And honestly, this is where we live. This is where we like to help people is with this data driven. But it often does take working with a coach or a mentor to get through this because it's a lot of data. It's a lot of information. It can be difficult to figure out. So that's why we're here tonight to just start answering questions when it comes to data and estimating and numbers. Pick away. I guess that is my quick and easy speech on the phases that we see landscapers go through. Yes. We've got some other stuff we can talk about later, but if anybody's got any questions, go ahead. And
yeah, tonight we just kind of wanted to open it up again for any questions. We had a lot of great questions when we were on here last week.
Yeah.
So if you guys have any questions about estimating, that's what we're here for, is to help you guys out. So feel free to post any questions you guys have about.
Well, because does everybody know what we mean when we say know your numbers for your business?
Well,
That in itself can be a little bit of a vague question.
Well, it is, and it's a common question we see all the time. It's where we say you need to understand all of the costs that goes into running your business. So you need to know all your costs for your employees. You need to know all of your costs for your equipment, everything that goes into running that piece of equipment. We all love equipment, but it has to have maintenance. It has to have tires, oil changes, hoses blow, whatever, all those things. We have to consider all that stuff. We also have to consider with the equipment, when the time comes, we're gonna have to replace that piece of equipment. So are you putting money away or thinking about there's going to be a raise in that cost? So whatever a truck was 20 years ago is definitely not the cost nowadays. So we need to think about those things. So again, going back to employees, are you thinking about all the costs to your employees? Yeah, you might be understanding or might understand the payroll taxes, but you also have other costs to having those employees. You have the paid time off. There is, if you give them any clothing allowance, safety, PPE stuff, boot allowance, car, or anything like that, anything you go above and beyond, those are additional costs. The other thing in costs of employees that I kind of would throw in there too is unproductive time. This is a big cost. The time the crews are just taking a break because it's hot, it's cold, whatever, they need to warm up, cool off, whatever it is. Or the times when it's raining and they're having to drive back and you have them work in your shop, that's unproductive time. And if you aren't calculating that, thinking about that in your costs, that could definitely be hurting you. I know it hurt us. We kept a lot of employees in the winter time, and that's something we have to consider because that's a huge cost.
Well, we didn't know about unproductive time.
Yes.
When we very first started working on learning our numbers, we hired a business coach because we were trying to figure it all out on our own, and we were struggling. So we hired a business coach, and unproductive time was one of our biggest killers.
Yes.
If not the number one.
Yeah.
Killer.
They actually got it, narrowed it down and gave us a percentage, and we're at 60 some percent.
Yeah, it was like 62 or 65, something like that.
It was something very low productivity. Is because not necessarily they weren't so much not productive on the job site, which they did pretty good. It was the time that we have them come back to the shop and take care of plants.
It was our fault.
Yes.
The moral of this story is our people were not productive, and it was our fault.
Yes.
It was taking them too long to get out of the door in the morning. It was taking them too long to get to job sites and things like that. We hadn't set up our employees to win. They knew how to work. They knew how to do the jobs, but we didn't set them up to win on our end.
So Justin Dryman asked, is there a neutral number we always start at? Would you recommend us getting a business coach that lives in our city? I don't necessarily think you have to have somebody in the city to answer that question. I know Justin's been working with us, and I'm definitely not from your area, Justin. So I would think that's something that, as long as they understand your business. Yes, it's important to understand vicinity and stuff like that, for marketing and stuff like that. But as far as understanding your numbers, you don't have that. Could be done.
My 2 cents is it's more important to work with somebody who understands the landscaping industry, because when we started working with a business coach, and it was not unfortunate. It was like a long time ago. Okay, this was like, oh gosh. No, I don't even remember. 2008. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And there weren't the options that there are now. There wasn't online coaching. And so we had just a general business coach. They weren't necessarily landscaping specific. And I think we would have gotten more out of it had they been industry specific. So that's my 2 cents on that. If anybody's looking for a coach. And that's why I love that we can do it online, because you can just reach so many more, niche. It's a niche. And so there's more options than there used to be.
You said, and that's why I asked, because the number around the city compared to your city is to be way different.
And that'll show up in your numbers.
So when you're going through it, knowing your numbers and sitting down and actually going through all these numbers, we look at everything, and when we go through our program, you look and find out.
When you go through our program, we'll look at your specific numbers.
But we go through your numbers and we figure out what your net profit's going to be, what you want to make at the end. And that's what it's all about. It's not necessarily the top line number. You want to get to $1 million a year. That's great. But if you're not making any profit, it doesn't matter. So we want to look at the bottom number, and that's our end
We're
goal.
profit focused, not revenue focused. Unless you have your profitability on lock, then we can work on getting that revenue up. But let's get your profitability on lock first.
Guys, if you have any other questions, especially those on Instagram, feel free to hop in, post some questions. Tomei Landscape, appreciate you being here. He's from Victoria, Canada. Appreciate reaching out. British Columbia, Canada, I should say. So appreciate reaching out.
We have worked with folks in Canada before too.
And Justin, just to kind of get some clarification, you asked, is there a neutral number we start with? Are you referring back to when we talked about the 50% number? I'm guessing that that, like I said, that's a 50% number. It's something I keep in the back of my head just for reference when I'm putting together estimate really quick.
50% gross profit, in case anybody's just hopping in and wasn't sure what we're talking about.
I just shoot for that in the back of my head. But I want to make sure I understand all my numbers, because once I have my numbers, it's easy to spit out the price to the customer, and I know my numbers. So I'm confident when I give that customer the price, I'm confident with it.
Well, I didn't know if we don't have any questions. We do have a assessment that we can kind of walk you through to help give you all an idea of, are you hitting everything that you need to be hitting or not?
Yeah, let me get that.
It's scrolling. And this is where we have multiple screens up. I don't know if the Instagram people can see it. It's you can go to milliondollarlandscaper.com/pricing assessment. Is that on there?
Yep.
Okay. Because I think on YouTube it's scrolling across the bottom of the screen. But if you go to this pricing assessment, we'll pull it up. It's just to give people a better idea of things they need to look at, because once again, nobody's underpricing their work like on purpose. It's genuinely a knowledge gap, and there's no way you would know this stuff, like we said, unless you've worked with a coach or with a mentor. There's no way you would know this, because Scott learned how to estimate from his dad. His dad started the business, and so he never took the time to work with a coach or a mentor, because like everybody else, he was just busy, and he was like, I'm just going to keep getting more work, because that's another common trap that we see landscapers fall into. They're like, oh, my profits are slipping, I feel like I don't have enough money, I'm just going to keep working. But we got stuck in that horrible trap of, like, we could not have worked any more if we wanted to. We were working all of the hours of all of the days and still weren't making enough. And so that's what really hit home, that we have to be the problem somehow here, because there's physically not enough hours to work anymore. And so that's how we knew, we're like, okay, we've really got to get this together. There's got to be something that we can do, because that's when we had joined the family business. And so now this business has to support two families, not just one. We were having kids, and so it was the perfect time to have a full-on business owner meltdown. It's like, if I'm going to have a mental breakdown and go crazy, it's going to be now, because now I'm so stressed, because I'm not sure if this business that we have committed to working in is going to be enough to feed, not just as parents. Now it was us and our growing family. So that's just a little bit of background on Scott and I. And that's really what kicked us in the butt to figure this out. So
let me get it up on the screen here so everybody can see it. Instagram, I'm gonna move my phone over 1 second. So here we go.
Blinding with light. Okay,
turned off there.
All right. I will try to hold it and not shake too much.
All right, guys. So this is an assessment. You guys can go to the milliondollarlandscaper.com/price assessment. And this is just what we're going to ask you is, some simple things here, and label these 1 through 5. 1 is, you strongly disagree, and 5, you really strongly agree with. So what the first question is, I have a consistent method for job costing or for calculating job costs, what the project's going to cost. And this is something we see all over and over. And this is where we see landscapers win sometimes, and sometimes I lose, because they don't have a system. They just kind of, I'm going to charge this time for this, and next time I'm going to go up a little bit because I'm not sure, or I didn't make so much money, and last time I'm going to charge a little bit more, or whatever. You don't have a consistent way. It's just kind of all over the place. The next question is, my pricing accounts for all of my overhead expenses. And this is a big one. This is where I see many landscapers don't understand. They don't understand all the costs that goes into the business, for one. And the second thing, they don't know how to account for it in their pricing. Let's see, we have a question. Somebody popped up. Is this being saved on your YouTube channel? Yes, Craig, it's going to be saved on our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to hop in there.
Yeah, watch a replay of it.
Yep. And Justin did say, yes, the number is 50%. Yeah, that's where we're going. So going back to the price assessment here, guys, you know, I regularly update my pricing. This is another one that we need to make sure we're staying up to date with the price of the material, what we're charging our for our employees. You know, if you give somebody a raise, you give somebody a bonus, that needs to reflect in your pricing, because you give somebody a raise and you're not charging enough, you're shorting out.
Well, that's one of those things. If you're not currently putting that in, that's just one of those little sneaky bits that if you've not worked with a coach or a mentor, you might not know to put in there.
Yep. The next one is everyone on my team that prices jobs all use the same pricing method. And this actually was brought up in a recent Facebook post. We saw somebody posted that they only do the estimating because they don't trust their people. They don't understand how they can get the numbers.
We had 3 people doing estimates and you would get 3 different answers. There was no systematic approach between you. We had a designer and your dad all doing them. So I get it. Like, once again, there's never any judgment if any of you all have to put like that you aren't doing very well with this, because we get it, because we did it.
Yeah. The next one is you include all of your equipment costs and vehicle costs on the job. This one, again, is going back to what we talked about earlier. When you're looking at your equipment, you need to factor in all of the maintenance, all the fuel, the oil changes, the tire changes, the track changes, the grease, everything that goes in that piece of equipment. The other thing you need to think about with equipment is if you have a truck and you get it wrapped, that wrap, the lights that go on there, anything you add to that piece of equipment, you need to be factored in that.
Well, and would you say that it is fair that of the people that you have worked with and coached through learning their numbers, is equipment, if not the most shocking thing to them, one of the most shocking things?
Oh yeah. When we go through and, we're doing like an average landscape company and they're seeing that their equipment's costing over $100,000 a year, they're like, no way it's costing this much. But you sit down, you start calculating it up, what you're paying for that piece of equipment, all the maintenance, everything that goes into it. It's always a mind numbing number that comes up. And you're like, no way. But it is actually true. So it is very important you sit down and figure out what your equipment's really costing you and you're charging for that on the jobs.
I just wanted to say we've had a couple more people hop on Instagram. So just a quick catch up. We're Scott and Katie. We are landscaping business coaches and we help people learn their numbers, even if they're just starting out and really have never dug into them before. So that's what's going on here. And we're just we're going through real quick, just a questionnaire that's going to kind of help you assess whether or not you are hitting everything that you need to be hitting in your landscaping estimates.
So, obviously we need to get all the equipment. The next thing is you can quickly and accurately provide estimates for your complex projects. And this one can be, it could be a little difficult because you might have to go back at prices or do a lot of measuring and stuff like that. But you should be able to do this fairly quickly if you have an estimating system and everything's kind of laid out, all your prices in there, all your equipment in there. You should be able to quickly go through and do this. Now, not always, depending on the types of projects you're doing. I understand all that. But for the most part, for the most things that we do, you should be able to go in and do this fairly easily and accurately. The next thing is knowing what your profit margins are going to be. You should be able to look at your everything you're doing and figure out what your net profit's going to be, what your gross profit's going to be.
Well, and you should know that before you hand that estimate to the homeowner. Knowing how much profit you make on a job shouldn't be this magical guess number that you get when the job is over. And once again, I say this because that's what we did. I remember a job would be done and your dad would be like, oh God, did you add up all the numbers? How much did we make? Did we make money on that? And so when we were still not pricing correctly, profit was an afterthought. It was let's cross our fingers and hope that this happens afterwards. It wasn't something that we knew going into the jobs. And so that's why when we work with people, the estimating system that we have created, that before you even hand them the quote. It's not a little guessing game of like, oh, maybe I'll make some money later.
Yeah. The next one is you have a system for tracking the time and materials for every job. So when you're doing your jobs, you need to be tracking every piece of equipment, every piece of or every labor that's out there, everything that's going in that job needs to be tracked in some fashion. That way you can do an accurate job costing to see if you actually made money on this job. And this is something you need to be doing every single job. I cannot stress this enough, because for one, you want to see what you made, if you actually made money. The two, you can actually improve your estimates in the future because you can refer back to this one and be like, oh, did I estimate enough time, or did I estimate enough material, or should I use a different piece of equipment? This is the only way you can improve, is by doing your job costing, but you have to be able to track it. If you're not tracking it, you could be missing out on a lot of money. The next one is you actually analyze which services are profitable. So what I mean by this, if you offer multiple different types of services, so you have lawn maintenance, landscaping, fertilization, irrigation, whatever it is, can you actually look at all of those numbers and say, oh, actually, I'm not making any money on this lawn maintenance, but I'm making more money on the fertilization or landscape lighting or whatever it is. If you can actually do that, then you can judge your business better and make better decisions in the future. Like, maybe I need to consider pricing, increase my pricing, or I need to get out of that. So just having those numbers are vital to you. And the last question here is, I'm confident that I'm not underpricing my services. Again, this is something that we see all the time. And a lot of it, people think they're very confident in the pricing until they actually go through and dive deep into understanding your numbers. And
we have yet to meet anybody who is overcharging.
Yes.
Not a single daggone one, but we have met many people who are underpricing.
Yes.
So just throwing that out there. We've worked with hundreds of landscapers. Literally no one is overcharging. So that is a fear that you can just let go, release it into the wind, because it is not real.
But you guys can grab this assessment, take it for yourself, go through it, and be honest with yourself, because you can't improve if you're just kind of guessing and saying, yeah, maybe so. But you have to think about these things and guess, are you actually doing it? And we have some other things on here, and we'll get to it tonight, but it's going to help you figure out, what you're actually losing if you're not charging enough.
Because like we said, we have yet to meet anybody who is overcharging, even though many people that we work with are like, I just want to charge a fair price. I want to make sure that I'm not overcharging. I don't know how to turn that back around. There we go. Sorry. We, even though so many people are worried about charging too much, like I said, we have worked with hundreds of landscapers. We have yet to come across anybody who is charging too much.
Yeah.
Most people are undercharging, and I just feel for people, because you guys started this business for a reason, to have a business to feed your family. Some people are just doing it for a side business, and I get that, but it's to have extra money. And so I don't want people to work that hard. Landscapers are hardworking. Landscapers are good, honest people. And so I feel bad when people are like, willing to take less than what they deserve for the work that they're doing, out of fear of just charging people too much, I guess is what I'm trying to.
And for those that have been on here, share, are you guys confident in your pricing? Do you feel that you are pricing accurately, or are you not doing these things? Let us know. We'd love to hear that, because this is what we're all about. Yeah, and if you've
got more questions about it, please, like rapid fire, let them rip.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Yeah. Well, but sometimes I get it. If you're new to this and we're mentioning things that you've not done before, they might not even know what to ask. And so,
and don't be afraid. That's just something that I have to tell people that we do coach is, don't be afraid of sharing your stuff with me. We've seen quite a bit of bad things.
There's really nothing. You can't surprise us.
Yeah. Well, we were in that same predicament. We were not doing things very well, and we were not on a right path. And it wasn't until we started diving in and understanding all these costs that we mentioned here before, all the equipment costs, all the overhead, and figuring out how to charge our customers accurately for this. Again, not just taking the materials and multiplying by 2 or adding 50% on there and just hoping. That might work for a while or while you're smaller, but as you start growing and adding more things to overhead, more equipment, all this stuff, especially the equipment, it gets older and you're not thinking about that, or thinking about, I have to replace this here in 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is. That could really hurt you. Or when it comes time to replace that piece of equipment, you don't have the money for it, and you're like scrambling. What am I going to do? I have to go get a loan, or I have to go do this, or whatever it is. It makes it very difficult. The other thing that we see is people, because they are not charging what they need to charge, they are not paying themselves. They're not giving themselves a fair wage. They might be paying themselves just enough to pay their bills and just get by, but they can't take the family vacation, or they're struggling to pay for Christmas, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be that way. And it goes back to understanding your numbers. So this is why we stress so much on this. Let's see. Somebody said, I work a full-time job, 70 hours a week. And am I making a mistake hiring an employee and trusting them to do the work while I'm at work? Not necessarily. No, I'm a huge fan of having employees. You have to do training. There's never going to be an employee you don't have to do any training. So you have to train them exactly what you want to do, what you want them to do. And there has to be checklists and there has to be checks and balances. So you give them a checklist and make sure they're doing it. Otherwise, they could just do their own thing and just guess.
Never assume that they know how you want that job done. If it's just, we'll just say mowing and lawn maintenance, for example, like say you have weeding the beds in there, like make sure that they know when they go out, like if they pull the weeds, they can't just like pile them up and leave them in the grass and then run them over with the lawnmower. Like if you want them to pull the weeds, pick them up, put them in a bag and put the bag in the truck and drive those to the shop to dispose of them. Be like, you have to be that specific.
Yes.
You cannot, people will do things that you never ever as a business owner thought that they would do. People will do the weirdest things. And so be specific. Don't be patronizing. You don't have to talk down to people. You just have to be thorough.
The other day, I was talking to one of our coaching clients. They work in LA. They work with high-end residential customers, actors, actresses, and stuff like that. And they're very particular. Like they literally have to go and dust off handrails. Like it's that crazy what they do around there.
Well,
but that's part of
that's crazy. But
well,
for
yeah,
there,
it is.
It's not.
Yes, exactly. But my point was, some of her employees have been there for 10, 12 years. The customer called because the handrail was dusty. So I asked her on her, forms or however she's getting the work orders to her employees, is dusting on there? Well, no, they should know this. Yeah, they should know this. They've been doing it for 10, 12 years, but you need to have this written down there. Like Katie said, if it's not written down, it doesn't count. So you have to have this written down exactly, specifically what you want them to do. So I'm all for having employees. My thoughts on solo entrepreneur versus having multiple team members or team members is, if something happens to you, can the business survive? Can the business go on? And can you continue making money off this? So I'm nothing wrong. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But to me, that allows me to grow and do what I want to do. If I want to take a time off and go on vacation, I can, because I have somebody taking care of my.
If you're already working a 70-hour-a-week job, you're going to get to where we were, where like there's just, you run out of hours at some point. So but and price your work accordingly. Yes. So you are still paying whoever is doing the actual labor a good amount, and you are making money as well. Yeah. So.
But great question, guys. Keep bringing them on. If you guys have any other questions about estimating, things to think about, things that we commonly see forgotten, post them in the comment section. That's what we're here for. Now, going back to one of the questions that we had in the assessment was being able to price your work consistently and accurately and quickly. This is something that we worked hard with and worked hard on to make it happen that way. And we actually have our landscaping pricing tool that I can show you exactly, just real quick, how you go through and create an estimate.
Yeah, if nobody's got any questions, we do have our landscaping pricing calculator that we use with our coaching clients that we can kind of show you, because once again, it's back to that systematic approach.
Yeah.
So whether it's just you are the only one pricing jobs, or if you've got multiple people pricing jobs, it just makes it a system. It's like everybody's doing it the same way. And this just makes it easier because you preload a lot of the information into it. And so you don't have to redo the maths, all the maths every time.
So let me share my screen here and get people on Instagram here.
Oh, back on phone holding.
You're on phone holding that screen there.
Oh, yep. Sorry. I got this. It's not my first time, I swear.
All right. So this is our pricing calculator. So I've kind of preloaded some information in here, but I put in that we're doing a brick patio here. So our brick patio, let me zoom in just so we can see a little bit better.
I'll do the best I can here without making people seasick.
On the other computer. All right. So I kind of put some of this information here, and you can simply just come down here and choose whatever type of material you have. So in this case, I just have a Brussels block, Unilock, it's spelled Brussels long, 500 square foot. I have our 3/4 inch clean stone, 21 ton roughly, limestone chips 5, perma edge, fabric, all the stuff that goes into this project. So the cool thing with our tool here, we can simply add in and say we want to have some hardwood mulch, and I'm going to put 5
this
yards.
Comes from, like we said, like things that we have preloaded in there. So it's very customizable to whatever type of business that you do. You can put whatever you use in there.
Yep. So I simply added all that in here. Now our cost. So this particular job, the cost that I'm going to write a check for is $5,294.
That's your materials.
Yes.
That's what it's costing you in
Um,
materials.
Here I have our equipment in here. Again, same thing. I was able to do a drop down menu, put in here. I'm estimating 13 hours to do this project. So the equipment's going to be on there for 13 hours. So it gives us our equipment costs and our labor costs. I come in here, I have our crew leader, our crew members. Again, you simply just drop down, put in whatever crew member you want or whatever you want in here.
Yes, because when we work with, and this goes back to if anybody was on earlier, we had somebody ask if you need to work with a coach that is in your specific geographic location in order to have correct numbers. Well, we work with everybody with their own businesses numbers. So like if you're seeing this and we're getting per hour rates for employees and for equipment and for materials, that's all going to vary by your location, but we use your specific numbers. And so that's something that we help you figure out. So like, yes, our spreadsheet's pulling up these per hour rates. This is based on one of our actual coaching clients. But this would be all very specific to you and your business. So please don't just write down the numbers that we have on here.
Yeah. We have these other tabs in here that have all this information.
Yeah. All of that, this would be a 7-hour live if we tried to go through all that, and it's just too hard. This is where it's too complicated to go through that just on the live. But I just want everybody to know that this is what we mean by things that would be specific to your business. It's those per hour rates that would be based on your own numbers. So please don't just write down what we have here. So
we do have a question. Somebody said, for me, pricing how long the job will take is what takes me a while. Absolutely. And this is something again where I cannot stress enough to start writing down how long it takes you to do different types of projects. I literally used to go out and time my crews because it was before smartphones and all this stuff. I literally had a stopwatch and I would go out there and time my crews how long it took them to put in a 1 gallon plant and stuff
and
like
that. That's a long game plan. And I get that. When we work with people, we give them standard industry production hours. Yes. And so this is something where if you worked with Scott to get your own pricing spreadsheet sorted out, the pricing process will get a lot quicker because say you don't know how long it takes to plant a bald and burlap tree. We give you some industry specific production hours that you can use until you have a better feel for it. Cause a lot of that just comes with experience.
Yep. So just to kind of continue on here, I have, some marking paint. I have a delivery fee and some dump fees in here. You can simply put in what you want. Now, the cool thing, it starts adding everything up and gives you this pie chart. So I can see materials is $5,294, my equipment's $192, labor and so forth. So I can see my cost for my business is $6,713.34. So this is the great thing about here. And the cool thing is I can see I have this pie chart to my right here. I have my pie chart to the right.
I'm sorry. I got distracted. Our dogs are outside playing and I was watching the dogs play. So Scott's like, pay attention, woman, move the phone. I apologize.
So the pie chart, the cool thing about this is when you start telling the customer the price and they're like, holy cow, I didn't think it's going to be this much. Well, you can say, well, materials in this case here, just whatever I have is 78%. My labor is 12%. My equipment's 2.9. So this just makes it easier to justify your costs and they can see, oh, wow, I didn't realize materials cost that much.
Before you go too far, my favorite part is this little section over here, because how many landscapers do you know that can tell you exactly, well, my materials are this, my equipment's this, my labor's this, and I'm going to walk home with, this much profit. Like how many people do you know that already know that? So
Craig, so you asked, how can I get this calculator? So this is our landscaping price calculator. So if you're interested in it, it's milliondollarlandscaper.com/LPC. For landscape price calculator. We do have this available. You can get this program. We work with you one-on-one, and it does have some coaching stuff. We'll get into that a little bit later, but that's how you can get to it.
Yeah, it comes with a coaching package. You can get the calculator, and it comes with, you work with, sorry, our dogs are going bananas. Scott works with you on getting this all set up because like we said, it really does take working with a coach and a mentor to get this set up correctly. But
So to get down to the final price here, you do have the option of picking what your net profit is. So we have it right now it's set at 15%. You can mark it to whatever you want. If you want this to be 12%, you can put it at 12%. You
Well,
want it
let's
20%?
talk some numbers real quick. We work with a couple of landscaping accountants who are very specific to this industry, and they have confirmed because we always hear like, unfortunately, too many landscaping businesses make like 2 to 4% net profit, and that is very bad. In case you didn't know, that is very, very bad. And speaking with them, they have confirmed that they also are working with landscapers, way too many landscapers that are pulling in around 4%. Like that's pretty common.
Yeah.
And so with this kind of calculator, you can go in and put whatever net profit that you want. We generally tell people to aim for a minimum of 12, but 20 is even, we do have people that do as much as 20. It kind of just depends on your business. It depends on a lot of things, but that's just kind of an FYI, because that's a little bit of a shocking statistic to me that so many landscapers are working at that low net profit and they just don't even know it.
So then you can add a discount, you can add sales tax if you want to, but then it gives you your grand total over here, $9,345.53. Now this price does consider all of your material, all your labor, all your equipment, all of your overhead. Everything that goes into this business or this, you're running your business is figured out in here. So it gives you your grand total of this 93.45.53. So it gives you your grand total. That's what you're going to charge your customer. And when you go talk to that customer and you tell them that's the price, you are confident because you have calculated every single thing in here. So,
well, and one of my favorite things to say is that data is more important than your feelings when it comes to pricing your work. So when you use a calculator and you know your numbers, you can look at this data here and make your decisions. If they're like, oh, that's a little bit too high, can you knock it down a little bit? Well, then you can come in and you can change your net profit if you want to. You don't have to, but if you've got it set at a 20% net profit, you can mark it down to 15 and see what that does to the price. And then you can give that to the customer and be like, that's as low as I'm willing to go, blah, blah, blah.
So,
but you're making information and database decisions. You're not just guessing and going off your feelings because numbers are more important than your feelings.
So the cool thing, like Katie said, this is the only number you're really going to change to lower the price. You can lower what your net profit is. You get to choose what you want for your net profit, but you can go only so low. So when you stop it at 15% and the customer says, well, I really can't afford this. The only thing that you can say confidently is to that customer to lower the cost is to change the project, change the scope of the work you're doing.
Yeah.
That's the only thing you could do. But that's a cool thing. And this is the only number you can come in here and adjust is this 15% or whatever you 12% net profit. So that's a cool thing about this. And again, your confidence is going to go up because you have counted for all this stuff. So when you present this price to Mrs. Smith for $8,795.80, down to the penny, that's what it costs to do this project.
Well, sure. Because most people feel a little bit awkward when people are like, oh, that's just too high. Is there anything better you can do? It kind of makes your stomach hurt. And you're like, I don't know. I don't want to screw people, but I don't want to lose out on work, but I got to make money. La da 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 da, insert, so on and so forth. But in my mind, it just makes it a lot easier when you just have the numbers to look at. Because like the numbers don't lie. You're like, oh, nope, sorry, I can't go any lower. But you can say that with confidence. And when you say things with confidence, then hopefully, luckily, the people, the customer might be like, oh, okay. And, we'll still go with you. Because if you're like, I don't know, when you're kind of, I kind of refer it to like when you're out there, in the dating pool, who you're going to go out with, the person that, walks up with the swagger and his confidence, or the one that's like, hi, I don't know, maybe, so that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. So if you guys have any questions about estimating in general, any questions about our pricing calculator, let us know. But again, it's really important that you guys sit down and really dive into your numbers and understand how to price your work. Because again, if you're just guessing and doing the 50% or taking the materials, multiplying by a number, you're just hoping and praying that you're going to make money. And this is where we see the ups and downs in the business.
It's getting to the end of the season. And if you're getting to that time of year where you're like, oh man, we did great. We stayed busy. I thought we would have more money in the bank.
Yep.
If you're that landscaper that was busy all summer and, it's coming up to the end of the season and you're like, that bank account's just not where I thought it would be. You likely have a numbers problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So make sure you guys are confident with your numbers. And if you guys need any help with this, feel free to reach out to us. That's what we're here for. You can always email me at Scott, SCOTT, at milliondollarlandscaper.com. I always love helping people out. We're in the Landscape Business Owners Facebook group, so feel free to hop in that, join it if you're not in there already. It's a great group, a lot of great questions and stuff get brought up in there. So make sure you guys get in that stuff. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Any other questions? Otherwise, we're going to go play with our dogs a little bit since they're running around on their own.
I apologize. They've been so distracting. But, well, in case anybody's new to us, we rescue Galagos. They're Spanish Greyhounds. And so we've got 2 newer rescues. And so they're just kind of now coming out of their shell and getting along and playing nice. And so they're really cute. So that's why I'm so distracted.
321 Outdoors says, which are the types of percentages you want to keep in mind as a whole in your business? Well, as far as numbers, the biggest thing I'm a huge fan of is looking at, yes, you want to look at gross profit, and your revenue, you look at your gross profit, and then you can also look at,
I would say revenue net profit, but that's just me.
I'm looking at a P&L. So I'm visioning a P&L. So I'm looking at my
say
annual.
that. So nobody knows what this means. Use your words.
I'm looking at my P&L and I'm looking at my revenue. I want to see where that's at, obviously. And then I want to look at my gross profit, and then I'm looking at my net profit. Net is where it's at. That's the number that we want to be looking at. And where Katie was referencing the low numbers, the low percentages, a 2 to 4%. That's net profit. That is the bottom number. That is kind of what you get to keep. And it's not.
Well, unfortunately, and this is where this is why we don't always like looking only at gross, because you can have a 50% gross and still have a 4% net if your overhead is all sorts of out of control. But once again, it's hard to, this is why you really need to work with a coach or a mentor or somebody who really knows what you're doing. Because unfortunately, bad information is a little bit rampant out there, but not everybody understands the nuances of all the numbers and how they work together.
Professional lawn maintenance. Appreciate that. He said, thanks for all you do for our industry. I appreciate you being on here tonight.
Absolutely.
But great question. So I guess kind of answering a little bit more. So you want to be looking at your net profit, and you want to be shooting for, I always try to aim for 12% net profit. 10 to 12% is where I want to shoot at. If I'm higher than that, that is freaking great. If I'm at 20%, that is amazing. But unfortunately, this industry is so low. And when it's that low, that's where we see these landscapers struggle over and over. They can't buy the new equipment. They can't pay their employees anymore. They can't take a salary increase on them for themselves. And this is where you just get by and you think, I just got to work harder. I'll get the next job. I'll work harder. And trust me, we've been there and done that, and it doesn't freaking work.
Well, and we've worked with people that did need to raise their prices because there is a lot of fear around, okay, crap. Okay, what if I work with you and all of a sudden I've got to raise my prices? We do have coaching packages available and strategies for how to go about raising your prices in a way that feels good for you and your customers. You don't necessarily have to do it all at once. There's ways to work around it. We have definitely coached people through stepping up and raising their prices, because it can be a little bit scary. And that is a genuine fear that I'm going to lose every customer immediately if I have to do this big jump.
So we were working with a client earlier this spring. They wanted to get their pricing all all figured out. They're actually making more money, more profit with less work because they're pricing the work where they needed to be.
Yes.
So that is a huge thing.
So,
that's
my smile. I'm like, yes. And that is what we want, because I don't want people to be working more for less. We want you to work less for more.
Yeah.
Is there a question?
Yeah. So, am I going to overload my business by implementing upselling, redoing mailboxes, power washing, gutter cleaning, etc., or should I stick to landscaping? Well, to be honest, it's really hard for me to answer. My thoughts on this is when you start to be broad and doing everything, you can't be great at you can't be great at everything. You're a jack of all trades, masters of none. And that's exactly what happens. So I'm all for adding upselling if it makes sense. If you start adding upselling and you don't have a pressure washer, you have to go buy a pressure washer and you only use that pressure washer a couple times a year. Does it really make sense? Maybe not. So
my 2 cents would be, if think about who you are and what you want your business to be. Are you a handyman or are you a landscaper or handy woman? And then do your upsells from there.
Yep.
So if you're a landscaper, there are landscaping upsells that you can definitely do. You don't have to, you don't have to do everything that homeowners ask you for. If they're like, can you come by and, clean my gutters, scrub my kitchen floors, pick up all my dog poop, and maybe do my laundry, you don't have to do everything that, that they ask you to do. So, but really work on defining who you want to be as a business owner and what kind of work you want to do, and have upsells from there, because upsells are great.
And I get it, especially if you're starting off and you just need to get things going, you need revenue coming in. I understand that. So if you can do it and it makes sense financially, you're not hurting yourself by like buying a piece of equipment you're only going to use once or twice a year. Then
don't go buy a pressure washer to do one job and then never do it again because you're like, oh, well, that sucked and I don't want to do that.
My dad bought a vent track that we told him not to buy. He bought whatever $40,000 vent track, and we only used it a handful of times, and now it's just sitting out back, kind of rusting away, and like it just makes me sick. But that's another day.
I digress.
Topic, yes.
Yeah.
A little touchy subject there, but anyhow, yes, it just, you have to think about things financially to make sure it's worth your time and worth your while. Again, if you're just starting and you need to get revenue coming in, by all means, offer that kind of stuff. But make sure you're pricing it correctly. Let's see, professional lawn maintenance said I'm at 15% net profit.
That's amazing.
It's taken a while to get here. So it does take some time.
Sure.
And it does make you probably had to figure out your numbers to be able to figure that out. So great stuff. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
But any other questions, guys? I appreciate you guys being here. Make sure checking multiple screens, make sure I have everybody's questions answered here. I think I have everybody answered. But we do appreciate you guys being here. This is something that we want to do more, start to getting out and doing more lives and sharing some information with you guys. So if you guys have any other things, any other questions, feel free to reach out, either continue posting in the comments. We'll answer them.
We have our landscaping business owners is the name of the Facebook group that we started. So if you're not in there, it's a free group, big group. You can join that, or always look for us live on Instagram and YouTube.
Yep. Craig, appreciate you being here. If you want to have any other questions, you want to take a deeper dive into
I said I'll be reaching out. That's perfect. You can book a call with Scott.
Yep. We do, we have coaching and stuff like that. So if you need some help beyond that, we can do, work with you. The cool thing with our landscape pricing calculator, like Katie said earlier, is we do have one-on-one coaching that goes along with it, because it is a necessity. Like we see so many people buy, I don't care, you're buying our program, any other program. If you don't have any personal guidance, you're just going to get lost and you're going to get fed up.
We tried to offer it as just like less expensive, but do it yourself. But it's too hard. It really is. People had questions anyway. Yep. And so that's why we went ahead and incorporated the coaching in with it, because we want to make sure that you get it set up right. We want to then make sure you can use it effectively. And then he'll do a follow-up call a little bit later as well, to make sure that you've been able to do it on your own.
One thing that we haven't really talked about is we're considering doing a small group coaching type call, or not call, but a program for this landscape pricing calculator.
Because in case anybody has just hopped in, we've been talking about pricing your jobs and landscaping estimating. That's what we've been talking about all night here. And we have a landscape pricing calculator that we help landscapers set up and tailor to their business. And we've been kicking around the idea of doing like a cohort style, where you would still get your one-on-one coaching, but we would do group coaching along with it, and having this just for landscapers that are in about that first 3 years of business. That way it's all landscapers that are just kind of starting out and are just getting this all sorted out and figured out together, because then that would give you all an opportunity to meet other landscapers that are just starting out and that are kind of in the same phase of business. And so if anybody has any interest in that, drop comments and let us know, because we've been kicking it around. It's like I said, it's not in lieu of your one-on-one coaching. It's in addition to your one-on-one coaching. So
321, it says, what's your pricing for coaching? So we have different pricing levels. We have a 911 call, we call it. It's so if you have something that's vital, you can, get into that, and we'll do, get you in right away and try to address the issue and get that solved. And then along with that, you get 2 weeks of unlimited
not
emails.
With the one. You're not with the 911 one. He messing it all up.
Let me bring it up here.
He's pulling up our website. Yeah. If you can't see, all our pricing is on our website, and you can always set up a one-on-one call with us to see what program would be better for you. Because we actually have more than one pricing calculator. We've got the one that we talked about tonight, and that is for smaller businesses or people who are in their first couple of years of business. Because we have a big, I call it the big fat beefy one. It's called our Profits Up estimating system, but that's more for businesses that are like, have hit that 500,000 in revenue and are more like working their way towards 7 figures. That's those landscapers that want to hit $1 million. We've got that for them. And then we do have one-on-one coaching packages. A 3-month coaching packages is the smallest package you can get because you really need at least that much to see progress. So,
so the 911, you get a 90-minute coaching session, a 30-minute follow-up call, and then 2 weeks of email follow-up support.
Oh, and so you were right. I didn't think that one had that. Okay, see, I was the one that's wrong. This is what you get when you have a husband and wife team. We're like, you're wrong. What are you talking about? And then I was.
And then we have.
I was wrong.
Did you mention the email mentoring? We have that.
No, I didn't mention it all. You
Okay.
can, you can go look on our website. We have different levels of depending on how much one-on-one you want, what your budget is, and like that.
Yeah, we try to make it so we want this to be affordable.
But the pricing calculator that we have tonight, that one comes with. That one's what, $497?
Yeah. It's
around $500. And it comes with
it's $497. Yes.
Yeah, it comes with a one-on-one coaching call to get that all set up. You'll get your numbers figured out. You'll get all that settled. So like all those, if you were here when we had that pulled up and you saw those tabs on the bottom that had like employees, equipment, all that, you get that all set up. Then you've got 2 weeks of email coaching, and that's that, like, make sure that you can use it, work out all the bugs, and make sure that you can use it on your own. And then there's a follow-up half-hour coaching call where you can streamline any like loose strings that you've got still. So,
and then you have email support along with that too. So
yeah.
So yeah, we had just different levels for coaching, just varies what you need. The main thing is we have a 911 that kind of gets you in right away. We have email mentoring, so you can ask me a question every single day, depending on how length. And then we have 3-month or 6-month programs you can get into. So that's kind of the gist of it.
To me, those 911 calls are good where if you really are new to estimating and you are like, I literally don't even know where to put my hands. I don't know what to do with this. Yeah. Those are good for that. Or getting that landscaping price calculator where Scott can help you work through that as well. So,
and then, yeah, that's pretty much it for what we have tonight. If you guys have any questions, feel free to continue posting in the chat section. That's what we're here for. Other than that, I think we're going to go out and give the dogs a little walk because they're just running around here like crazy animals. So
they're being so cute.
Yeah. So. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Yeah. Have a good night.